Welcome to Boomer Blast, the NFL Fantasy Football Podcast, coming to you from G4 Podcast Studio. We've got all the action coming up from Week 9, the injury latest, who we think we should trade for and away, and all the usual carry on when it comes to fantasy football. My supporting cast tonight is Shug, Roberto and Drew, and I could be joined with no better company. So we'll not hang around. And Shug, I can only start with one man tonight, couldn't I?
Rex Buckhead.
You're completely wrong there. It's Joe Mixon. He's the man of the weekend. He's the man of the moment. And he's my boom for this week. If you're watching this podcast, you know what has happened this weekend with Joe Mixon. 55.1 points. He had 5 targets with 4 catches, 22 attempts and 153 rushing yards and 58 yards with receptions. 5 touchdowns. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, but 5.
Surprised you can count.
He's a surprise, that.
Surprised you can count that high, aye.
And I have got a confession to make. I was trying to trade him away this week. I think it was a bit of a frustrated owner, and I've spoke about it here for weeks, that how annoying it was getting, that I wanted a guy that was top 5, even top 3 running back, and I thought I was getting that with Joe Mixon. And you were talking sub 20 points each week. I thought it should have been the other side of 20. But this week, 55.1 points. It doesn't get much better than that. Before he started week 9, he was running back 11. Now he's running back 2 for the whole league. For me, that's unbelievable. And I could sit here and go on all night about him. But yeah, absolutely frightening. And I'll come to you next, Shug, right? Apart from Joe Mixon, I'm going to take a guess here and say who your boom was.
Yep.
Is it Tyreek Hill at all?
Absolutely. The cheetah again, doing cheetah things. 27.3 points again. So he said not a groundbreaking week, but he just keeps doing it week in, week out for me. As I said, I got criticised at the start for taking him in my first round pick, and I've been absolutely spot on by taking him. He's the top wide receiver in the league. He's been outstanding. Another touchdown on the board as well, and another Dolphins win. So my boom again is the cheetah.
Yeah, we bang on about him every week, and we spoke about it a lot in pre-season. The number one topic coming into this season for the Dolphins was, would Tyreek Hill suffer not having Patrick Mahomes, or would he flourish with Tua? Roberto, do you agree that it's phenomenal how well he's done under Tua?
Yeah, and I think there was obviously a lot of worry about Tua being his quarterback. Can he produce the numbers? But him and Waddle together and that Dolphins offense has been phenomenal to watch. I mean, every single week that team are scoring 30, 40 points. Probably the most entertaining team in the league just now. Tyreek's still producing ridiculous numbers, and yeah, fair play, Shug. Good choice, very good choice.
Yeah, and we talk about that offense, and I know you were delighted when you picked up Raheem Mostert, who has been a bit of a stud for you. We spoke in Thursday's pod about the trade deadline and who came in. One of the guys being Jeff Wilson. Does that worry you a wee bit, being a Raheem Mostert owner?
Yeah, massively. Last night, Jeff Wilson, I think, was 60% of the snaps to Mostert. Was obviously the secondary in that game. And I probably will look to trade Mostert.
He's throwing it out.
I probably will. And I've got, obviously, Tony Pollard is just going to slot right into my RB2 position behind Aaron Jones. So if I can get rid of Mostert high, then that's a big win for me.
Yeah, that's a good idea. And was there anyone from your team that impressed you this week? Who brought home the gold?
Garrett Wilson. So finally, we've had another brilliant Garrett Wilson performance. Obviously, the first couple of weeks, we had Joe Flacco at the helm, and Garrett Wilson really, really thrived under him. Since Zach Wilson came back, he's not produced at all. And all it's took is for a couple of offensive injuries for Garrett Wilson to be up there. Wide receiver 1, 2 weeks in a row, 17.9 points, over 100 yards. Garrett Wilson is my stud for the week, and hopefully moving forward.
Yeah, there must have been a point where you were like, right, should I drop him at waivers or should I hold on to him? But now it looks like he's going to be on your team every week. It looks very good. And under Zach Wilson, there was a lot of things changed. And for me personally, I've got Tyler Conklin as my tight end. The week he scored big under Zach Wilson, I had dropped him because the previous weeks it didn't look like he was going to get the same sort of targets or things like that. And now he's top 10 targeted guy in the league. He's up there. So it has been a sort of bedding in period when it comes to Zach Wilson and the offensive players there. But another guy that came back for injury that was really impressive this week was Cordarrelle Patterson. I know, Drew, you had him in your team. Delighted?
Very much delighted, yeah. Obviously, came back off IR as of Saturday, and he was right in, started right away, and within the first few minutes scored his first touchdown. He got an overall of 18.3 points. He rushed for 44 yards on 13 attempts and overall got 2 rushing touchdowns. He also had 1 reception for 9 yards. But one thing that was very interesting, I thought, as well, he's backup, Tyler Algier. He rushed for 121 yards on 10 attempts. So Patterson only got 44 yards but 2 touchdowns, whereas Algier got 121 yards. So you may be thinking they're kind of easing him in, getting him up, allowing him to get up to the red zone, and then bringing Patterson in to score touchdowns. So yeah, it's good news for obviously Algier owners. If he's still going to get some points.
So that's an interesting one for anyone that does own Algier in the league. Like, would they look to trade him, or would they look to see could he bring it home for another week? Shug, is this someone you would take if you were offered them?
I've got him.
Do you? I'm right on the money.
So, everyone wants to come to the table, we can talk business.
Wait a minute. We're what, 5 minutes into the show? Would Algier go for Mostert?
Oh, we could make that happen.
Maybe if there's some collateral in there as well, maybe another wee fringe player that we could fling in for a wee double. But is this Algier and Patterson situation going to be like Zeke and Pollard, where you've got
there?
I just been organising a trade.
I forgot what I was going to say there. I just got fondled.
Let's just do a deal.
Alright, deal.
You said you're trying to flog him.
But I think if it's me, I've got Patterson. I think they're going to ease him back in. He'll probably about 30% that weekend there, and then he'll put it up to 60% because he obviously went under a surgery. You know what I mean? It was a small surgery, but it was. So I think it's going to be a case of easing in. Don't come in and start on fire. So just kind of easing him in.
I think the difference with Patterson to Algier is that Patterson's a passing running back. He can play out of that sort of back in these different sort of plays, whereas Algier's going to be the guy that carries the ball up the pitch so many times more than Patterson, especially coming off at IR. You don't want your star player coming back in and getting injured again. No. If Mariota has got Patterson available, then they're a complete different team. The Falcons have been excellent this year. I've been really impressed with them, but that's enough about the positives for this weekend. And one guy that really disappointed me, and we're talking about trades there, and I'm really sitting with a dilemma whether to trade this guy away or not, because he's playing in one of the best offences in the league, if not the best offence in the league. And I've got a dilemma. It's Devonta Smith. All right, 4.2 points, 2 targets, 2 receptions, 22 yards. He gets 7.6 points last week against the Steelers, who are 32 in the 32 worst defence against the wide receiver. I just don't get it. The next game's the Commanders, which gives me a wee bit of hope. I think they sit at 30 against the wide receiver, but I just don't know where to go with this, because it seems to me that Jalen Hurts, his target man just now is AJ Brown. Whenever the sticks are down or whenever they're up against it, and I do say that even though they've been against the Steelers and they're absolutely terrible, he just seems to be targeting AJ Brown just now. So I'm a wee bit worried about Devonta Smith. If you had him, would you trade him away?
Yeah, I probably would. And I think as well, with having Hurts as a mobile quarterback as well, they don't depend heavily on the throwing game. So if AJ Brown is Hurts' kind of main man for the moment just now, then definitely I'd move Smith on. He's only producing once every 3-4 weeks. Yeah. Is that consistent enough to bring in and win you fantasy games? Probably not. Get rid of him.
Hurts loves Goddard as well, doesn't he?
Yeah.
His tight end Goddard.
Just under 30 points or something this weekend.
It was mad. It was mad for him. But for me, Devonta Smith is kind of similar to maybe an Isaiah McKenzie or a Gabe Davis. He's only going to get those points when he's looking for a kind of a deep out ball. He's not going to be the guy that's going to get 10-yard receptions. He's the one that's down the field for 40, 50, 60-yard receptions. So that's probably why when he gets the targets, he's getting you points. And would you get much from in trades? I actually don't think so.
I would be selling low. Yeah. And Shug, these are the kind of guys I don't want around my dressing room, right? You want to know what he wrote on his Instagram?
What?
He wrote, I just want to let you all know, I don't give a fuck about your fantasy team.
He is toxic. He's another Akers. Get him out.
He's got to go. If it wasn't, this is one of the guys that knows that his name's on the team sheet every week. Aye. He is that good. But like Drew said, I would be selling low. And in your case, Shug, if I was to offer him, who's the type of guy you would see around the level of Devonta Smith?
Cam Akers.
Cam Akers is that type of level. Now, as you said, he's not really produced. It's very rarely he puts up the goods, so I wouldn't be giving you much for him, to be honest with you. Probably around about a Gabe Davis is probably a good sort of trade. But I've got one guy I could give you.
Give me a wee second here. There's only one problem with me trading for Gabe Davis.
He's already gone.
Don't deal with yourself.
But you could throw them both into that category. Like Drew said, if Josh Allen isn't going to Stefan Diggs, then Gabe Davis is going to get it. But it's going to be a deep threat. If Jalen Hurts isn't targeting AJ Brown, it's going to be a deep threat to Devonta Smith. That's where it gets me just now, and that's where in fantasy you need these guys that are consistently getting targets, and that's always the barometer where I try and judge guys on. When I start to see that going down, I start to get a wee bit worried. But I'm very poor at trading high. I always tend to trade low, and I'm not the greatest at trading. But give me a name that disappointed this week, Shug.
Well, there was a lot of talk about him, and he disappointed. To be fair, the myth. Rex Burkhead. I mean, listen, to give him credit, there he is there. To give him
for any of the listeners that aren't tuning in on YouTube, we've actually got a T-Rex on the screen right now. So yeah, that's how highly he's rated.
So listen, I cards on the table, I put him in for a bit of laugh last week as my stardom. But if you took him and my other stardom last week, they got a combined total of 5.3 points, which is absolutely atrocious. I'll make absolutely no apologies to him, because if you listen to that advice and put Rex Burkhead in your team, then you're not going to win anything. But on the flip side of that, I said how good he was for the dressing room. He's my good luck omen. I left him on my bench and I won the game. So job done, and he goes back in the scrap heap this week. Rex Burkhead.
I can't believe you're not apologising to the Boomer Bus Nation for that.
Absolutely not.
if anybody started Rex Burkhead this week in the back of Shug's advice, please send it into our socials, right? We want a good laugh. And I think you owe them an apology.
No, I don't. No, absolutely not.
They should know you're never serious.
Aye.
I'm disappointed in you, I must say. But
look at that, 1.5 points.
But Drew, your game is hanging in the balance this week. Some guys have done well for you, like you've spoken about already, Patterson.
Yep.
Who's let you down and left you in the lurch, depending on a few results tonight?
I was having a look through my team, and everybody has performed pretty well. One person that did annoy me was Mike Evans, but like we were talking about, he got injured, he got a wee knock in the first round, but in the first quarter. But my major disappointment is Deonta Foreman. Deonta Foreman, he was projected for 13.95 points, and he got an overall of 4.1 points. So very, very disappointing week for him. Considering the last 2 weeks against the Buccaneers, he gets 16.5 points, and then against the Falcons last week, he gets 31.8 points. So just to go from that down to 4.1 points is very, very disappointing. He had 23 yards, 7 attempts at rushing, but it's just not good enough. But I have to say something. Looking at his matchup for this week, he's got a quick turnaround. They're playing Thursday night, and they're playing the Falcons, who did score 31.8 points again. So I'm not totally discrediting him. I'm looking forward to starting him again this week and see what he does on Thursday night.
Is it a case here that you could move him on? Or I like the way you picked him up, because you had CMC, you took him second overall in our draft.
Yep.
You handcuffed him with Foreman, knowing that he has an injury record, and it's worked out for you. Because a lot of the time, I know I picked up Samaje Perine to back up Mixon, didn't really get the usage out of him. But in your case, Drew, is it now a time that you could maybe move Foreman on with one eye on that game coming up on Thursday?
Well, this is the thing, but I probably would be looking for a good bit for him, if I'm being totally honest. He's had the first week that obviously CMC was away, scored 16.5 points. Good week, and it was against the Bucks, who are quite good against the run. And then the following week against the Falcons, 31.8 points. So he is going to get targets, he is going to get touchdowns, he is going to score points. It's the difficult thing is, you look at that game at the weekend there, was it really his fault, or was it the Panthers were just absolute guff? And I'm going to go for the latter. I think the Panthers were just absolute guff. But I did actually offer him to Shug in our trade for CMC's trade. I was like, take him, you know what I mean? As a bit of backup, but he knocked it back.
Rightly so, looking at those points.
Aye. More than Burkhead.
True. Yeah, I'll give you Burkhead if you want.
No, but right.
But in terms of that, you got a wee bit lucky with his points. And a guy in our league that's been very unlucky the whole season has been Roberto.
Yep.
You've won for the second week in a row this week. Am I right in saying that?
A bit of momentum behind me.
It's good. You're doing well. But who disappointed for you this week?
So I'm being harsh here because he got injured early on, but Aaron Jones last week came off a 20 point week, and then this week he was like 6.5 points, but he did get injured. He done his ankle in, and he only rushed for 25 yards or something like that. So I'm being harsh on it because my team are in a good place now. They're performing well. All my players are double-digit performers now. Even my kicker, my defence are doing well. So yeah, I'm being harsh with Aaron Jones. I know he'll bounce back, especially with this Packers team now. They're struggling. They're crying out for big players. Lazard for you, stepping up again last night. Aaron Jones will be stepping up moving forward. So yeah, he's my bust this week, but he's not my bust for the season. I'm going to keep the faith with Jones.
Yeah, and Thursday night show, the one that we do live on YouTube every Thursday night, I actually took AJ Dillon as my start-em. I went for something a wee bit out there. I didn't want to go for the obvious and take Aaron Jones. I expected it to be a big run game. I think when Jones got injured, it fell apart. But just now, the Packers are in all sorts of trouble. It's just not happening for them whatsoever. But we'll go a wee bit deeper into that later on when we come to the injury news in the show. But we're going to jump to a wee game next. You guys have all been given a headline from some of the stuff that have been in the news this week. One of you guys is going to have the headphones on. So from anyone that's not watching on YouTube right now, anyone listening at home on the podcast, Roberto now has headphones on. He has got music playing. He's
listening to pure Slipknot, so I don't know what he's singing about.
Yeah, he's turned full goth on us. So Drew's got a headline in front of us, a wee bit of news from the NFL this week, and he's going to try and tell him it. And all Roberto's going to see is his lips moving here. So Drew, on you.
Jeff Bezos has got 99 problems.
I know that.
Right.
Jeff Sterling has 99 problems.
Jeff Bezos has got 99 problems.
Jeff
Bezos.
Menos? That's Spanish. Minus?
Bezos.
Menos.
Jeff Bezos
Bezos
has got 99
problems.
Hey. Okay, pop the headphones out.
Ready?
Yeah,
So basically what Drew is talking about there is Jeff Bezos is set to be teaming up with hip-hop star Jay-Z to put a bid together for the Washington Commanders. Other potential bidders include mogul Brian Allen and private equity investor Joshua Harris. It's estimated that the sale could cash in between 5 to 6 billion, with the caveat that a new stadium would have to be built. It's not clear if the two have yet spoken with Dan Snyder, the current owner of the NFL team, for the potential buy. But there's a few things with this. Today the news also came out that Liverpool are up for sale by the Fenway Group, who also own the Boston Red Sox, the Pittsburgh Penguins, if I remember right. Do you think that the two are linked? I'll come to you with this, Shug. Do you think that they could be linked here? I mean, I know that Liverpool are valued at 4.5 billion.
It's interesting it's come out right about the same time. I think it's linking too much to say it could definitely be linked just now. I think just wait and see in that one. I'm not 100% sure, to be honest.
Yeah, Drew, and in a time where the Washington Commanders have needed a big upgrade for the stadium, we've seen a lot of health and safety hazards with it last year when it was sewage leaks and people falling through barriers in the stands. Do you think this is good news for the people of Washington?
I would probably say definitely, because they're possibly going to get the investment that they've needed to possibly improve the grounds, improve the stadium, and possibly improve the team, because as Shug like to remind us at the start of the year, he thinks the Commanders are absolutely dug, mate.
I know, but a funny thing during the game yesterday was that they advertised for season tickets for next season. Now, they made a shock investment in Carson Wentz at centre-back when it looked like his career... Centre-back. Listen, the way that Carson Wentz has been playing, he'd be much better at centre-back, at quarterback, all right? On the screens for the season ticket renewals, it was Taylor Heineke that was a poster boy for that. Roberto, Heineke's looked excellent. Is this a kind of guy you'd be picking up in fantasy football as your quarterback, maybe a bye-week quarterback?
I have actually looked at him because I don't have a backup quarterback, and Geno Smith is on bye on week 11. Heineke has played really well the last couple of weeks. Definitely someone that you could pick up if he's got a good matchup. When your quarterback's got a bye, then jump all over it. But I know yesterday when we were watching the Commanders game, the crowds were chanting Heineke's name.
Yeah.
Like the full stadium was like chanting Heineke, which I thought was class. But
that's awesome for me, because last season Heineke done okay. I think he done well enough to keep the job, and then they brought in Wentz, who doesn't have a good track record. Anything outside that first half of his career at the Eagles has been terrible. Now, I think Heineke deserves that job. I really do. But moving on, we will move on to the next bit of news now in the same style. Shug's going to read it out to Drew, who's now got the headphones on and can't hear a thing that Shug's saying, so he's now got to guess by his lips. Shug, we're on you.
The Blur brothers make history. The Blur brothers make history.
The
Blur
brothers,
yes, make history. Make history. The Blur brothers make history.
The Blur brothers
Make
history.
Yes, well done. That was good. So pop them off. The story behind this one is Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle, affectionately nicknamed the Blood Brothers, have combined before week 9 for 1,688 yards, which is more than any pair of teammates in NFL history through 8 weeks, according to the NFL's media research department. Shug, are they the best tandem in the NFL right now, not just fantasy football?
Absolutely, I would say so. I said Tyreek Hill in there. The numbers don't lie, do they?
Loves him. He absolutely loves him.
I love those two.
Yeah, so the previous teammate record was set by St. Louis Rams wide receivers Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt, who totalled 1,679 through the first 8 games of the 2000 season. Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders tied the same mark for the Denver Broncos back in 2014. Okay. Could anyone have predicted this, that the two of them would be this good, Roberto?
No, definitely not. Like we said at the start of the show, I don't know if anyone had much faith in Tua stepping up and kind of making Hill as good as it has been this year, but Waddle obviously finished the season very well last season, and he's just took that momentum into this season, but the two of them are just ridiculous, absolutely ridiculous together.
Yeah, Andrew, I know we've already spoke about it, but taking that concussion aside for Tua, would you say that the Dolphins would be even better than a 6-3 record at the moment?
I think you have to agree with that, yeah, because of what was it? He missed 2 games, was it? He missed 2 full games, and it was out for half a game.
Yeah.
So practically 3 games that he didn't play all in. Did they get beat then?
Yeah,
that's correct.
Yeah,
that's
so
correct,
you can't argue with the facts there, isn't it? It's total facts.
Yeah.
And I think you've probably seen Waddle's and Hill's points probably dramatically decrease in those 3 weeks that obviously Tua wasn't there as well. So you can't deny with the facts that are put in front of you.
Yeah. So we'll move on. Third bit of news before we go to our break. Shug, pop the earphones on.
Yeah.
Yep. Drew, give us a headline.
High flying.
Read the
High
full
flying.
thing. Read the
High
full thing.
flying Eagles swoop franchise record. High flying
Eagles swoop
Swoop.
Scoop. Swoop. High flying Eagles swoop.
Franchise record.
French fries.
Franchise record.
France.
Franchise record.
French rise. Franchise.
Franchise record. Record.
High flying
Eagles. Swoop. Franchise
record.
Yeah.
Brilliant. So, high flying Eagles sweep franchise record. As we all know, the Philadelphia Eagles have went 8-0 for the first time in franchise history. The Eagles are the 29th team in the Super Bowl era to start 8-0. Drew, I'm going to come at you with this one. Can they go all the way to the Super Bowl? Do they look that good?
Yeah, they definitely do. It just, when it gets to playoffs, I just feel like anything can happen, so you never know what's going to happen. You know, it turns into it goes from obviously a league into a knockout, and sometimes some teams are good in league format, some teams are better at knockouts. You know what I mean? They could probably come up against a team like the Bucks, and I always just think the Bucks have always got it when it comes to the playoffs and things like that. And then that's when you're going to really, really test yourself. So obviously, I don't really know how it all works with the playoffs and stuff like that. I don't know if they can really meet each other, but yeah.
Well, leading up to that, the up and coming games are the Commanders, the Colts, the Packers, the Titans, the Giants, the Bears, the Cowboys, the Saints, and the Giants again. Now, we spoke about Devonta Smith at the top of the show about trading him away. Now, when I look at that list, the Giants aside, obviously, that's what makes me want to keep him. There's a lot of poor defences there that let a lot of points go. But looking at the team, Shug, do you think they can go all the way undefeated?
I think it's more than possible the way they've started. I think you've got to respect them and got to think. We never really mentioned them at the start. We never really mentioned them in pre-season as being contenders to start the way they have. And then you look at that, you read that list, and there's nothing really for them to fear going in. They should be confident getting that. But I think what the weekend showed you as well was that in this NFL, anything can happen. We strongly tip the Bills, and then we'll go on obviously to the results. But MD can beat MD in their day, so I personally don't see them going undefeated. It isn't out with the realms of possibility, but I don't see it. I think they will slip up at some stage, but they're certainly contenders.
The Giants, obviously. And Roberto, looking at these and coming back to fantasy, right, and Jalen Hurts is absolutely on fire right now. There's nobody that's going to stop him. I think he might be sitting at QB1 just now. Hypothetically speaking, you've got Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes, and I offer you Jalen Hurts. Are you taking it?
Oh, yes, I would.
Yeah.
Because he is a scrambling quarterback, and that brings up points. Just look at Justin Fields last night. He only threw 130 yards, but he rushed for 180 yards, and he got over 40 fantasy points. So if you've got a quarterback like Jalen Hurts, like Lamar Jackson, someone that's good on their feet, that can bring up yardage, can bring up points, you would snap that all day.
Okay, and I'm going to throw another name at you here, okay, and we're going to move on to the next section of the show. And Drew, can you tell me what the next section's called, please?
Yeah, that to fuck.
Pure Scottish from Drew there. And basically, this section of the show is about irrelevant players to fantasy football who've basically snatched up points. So tell me, guys, before week 9, had any of you heard of Raheem Blackshear?
No idea who the guy was.
Sounds like a Game of Thrones character.
Raheem Blackshear this weekend for the Carolina Panthers scored 24.1 points. He had 5 attempts for 13 yards and 1 touchdown, which sounds a bit odd given his points. But he actually had 4 targets, 4 receptions for 40 yards, and he had an 88 return. Now, I know not all leagues score return as points, but ours does. 24.1 points. Drew, Devonta Foreman owner, were you raging?
No, because I didn't even realise it happened. I didn't even, until I came in here the night, and I was like, who the hell is Raheem? So I didn't even know who the guy was, so full credit to him. But as I was saying when you obviously told me the news about the points that he got, you need to look at that game and be like, why did he score those points instead of Devonta Foreman? The game was away from them, so are they then trying to protect Foreman with already Hubbard being out? So did he maybe get taken off the field? You know, I don't know.
And Shug, given the waivers coming up on Wednesday morning, would you be reaching out to get someone like him, given how he got the points?
Nah, not really. He makes no difference to my life whatsoever. No, I mean, he got the points. His coach obviously has some confidence in him. You might see him put up decent points as it goes on, but nah, I don't really see him as somebody you would go for. He's came out of nowhere for a reason, and I think this will be a one-off week, to be honest.
Okay, I'll pose the same question as I posed to Roberto.
Yep.
Would you rather Raheem Blackshear or Rex Burkhead?
Rex Burkhead all day for his
Get out of here. I think this guy scored more points than his combined total.
The only way I would take Blackshear is Hubbard's already out, so you take him just in case anything happens with Foreman. If you've got space, I'm not dropping somebody to bring him in because he could probably never do it in that.
I have to disagree with you there because I think there is always a good side to handcuffing players in case another gets injured, but I also think there's the other side where you've got to look at quality. Now, I just don't know if the proof is in the pudding here. I would have to wait and see how we got on, and that's the way I would treat it. But another guy who seemed to come to life this weekend, it was started in 4.8% of fantasy leagues. Given this was Mageddon this week with 6 teams on a bye and so many folk out, he's a tight end it's hard to scratch about. And I'm going to come to you with this one, Roberto. Cole Kmet this weekend scored 22 points, 6 targets, 5 receptions, 41 yards and 2 touchdowns. This guy hasn't scored more than 10 points in any game, and he's seen a high of 4 targets once this season. Is this someone that you would look to bring in at this point? The way Justin Fields is playing, for me, I would say maybe, but I do still think there's better out there.
My only concern with having a Bears tight end is that they'll run 60-70% of the time. So games like this where Komet's obviously had low volume of targets, but he's had 2 touchdowns which has brought in big points for him. Fields obviously trusts him about the red zone, so I personally won't be jumping on him, but I can see the value in it. The way that Fields is playing, the way that the Bears are playing, the momentum they're getting behind them. Although they lost last night, they scored 32 points. The Bears haven't done that all season. So, listen, there's good offensive value in getting them. I personally won't go, but I can see why people would, 100%.
Yeah, it's a strange one, and in a world where tight ends are very scarce and their value is extremely high at this point in a fantasy season, it was tipped very highly. I think it was Martin who actually says that Komet's going to have a big season. Now, it's took until now for him to come to life, and we're talking the same week which you guys brought in Chase Claypool. Shug, is Komet someone that's going to be high in waivers for you?
Possibly, because I mean, as you said, tight ends are very hard to come by. I thought I was getting one in Ingram. I thought he'd maybe hit a bit of form, put him in as my stardom, and he got 1.8 points last week. So it just shows you at the tight ends, it's been very hard to get somebody who is producing points on a regular basis. So it's possibly one you look at. Maybe.
Yeah, and given that the Bears actually put up a lot of points this week, they came to a defeat 35-32 against the Dolphins. Drew, is there anyone in that Bears team that you'd be looking to go and get? But for me, Justin Fields was on absolute fire. And what we've seen there that we didn't see quite often this season was the throwing game. Darnell Mooney is starting to look like a good fantasy player. I think it was 4 weeks ago I said, look, this guy's starting to get the targets now. Fields is starting to find them. How high do you rate Mooney at the moment, Drew?
That's probably the only one that I would say that I would go after, Don't really fancy Herbert, and especially if Fields likes to run the ball. So I would probably say Mooney is the only one that I would target there. And like you said, it looks like he's going to start targeting him a bit more. But you then need to look at the flip side of it. Bringing Claypool in, they're going to probably share the targets there. So you could be going out your way to get Mooney. 1 week he'll score 20 odd points. The next week Claypool will do it, and then Mooney's get 5, 6, 7 points. Yeah. And that's fantasy football for you, isn't it?
Yeah, and we've got N'Keal Harry coming back, and I'm going to make a bold claim right here. The Bears will finish in a positive record this season.
I love that from you.
They will 100% finish it. Just to see the way that they lost that game last night and the offensive value that they've got, this is the kind of game that Bears fans have been waiting for. Right, we've lost the game. Big deal. But they lose a lot of games. But that was a game to score 32 points and win it the way that they did. And Justin Fields, as QB1, stepping up taking his performance to the next level, they will finish in positive this season.
It's good that you brought that in the get to fuck section of that. Get that to fuck.
Would you say the message to the Bears is bear with us?
Literally, just bear with us, right? There's a lot of weeks left. There's a lot of football still to be played, and they're going to listen. This is the turning point.
I don't know. I'm going to disagree with you here. I think that with the Bears at the moment, it's peaks and troughs. I think that that wasn't a pun.
That's not a bear pun. That was a bear pun.
I just think that this week like that, like they've scored 32 points and still come out with a defeat. I just don't think they're defensively good enough at the moment to put a consistent run together to give a positive outcome to their season. For me, all the assets are there to go on and do better next season, because this has been a rebuild that's been going on for a while. It's now looking like Justin Fields is the man.
Yep.
Over 40 points in fantasy football this week. I think you hit me with a stat before we come on air, Roberto.
Yeah, so weeks 1 to 5, he was QB 39. Weeks 5 to 9, he's been QB 1.
Yeah, and for all the bad advice that we give in this podcast, this is one we got right. We've seen this coming. He looks like a rock star on the ground, ball in the air. He just seems to be getting it going. And this is a run-first offense. Mm-hmm. You've said it 2 minutes ago. It's amazing that he's putting up numbers like that, especially at running back where he looks so strong. I just can't see as a team you putting a consistent record together. Okay, guys, and before we go to the break, I've got a trivia question for you. I know we like a wee game at the end, so this is an extra 2 points for one of you, whoever can get this right after the break. So the question is, the Cowboys owner Jerry Jones might receive a hefty fine from the NFL, but can anyone tell me what, and I'll keep it till after the break, he could be fined for? Thank you for everyone that's lasted this far. If you're enjoying it, or even if you're not, it would be great if you could subscribe, or if you're listening to our podcast even for the first time, go and follow us, go and subscribe so you get the notifications every week. This will be coming out on Tuesday morning in podcast and Tuesday night on our YouTube, and we go live on YouTube on Thursday nights with all the previews with the week coming up. So get involved, guys, subscribe and get involved with us. We're going to go to a break now from our sponsors, G4 Claims.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
If you've been hurt in a road accident that wasn't your fault, you should really talk to G4 Claims first. Unlike road accident solicitors, we don't charge you for our services, which could see you better off. To keep 100% of your compensation, have a chat with Nicole and the team. You'll be glad you did. Search online for G4 Claims.
Keep 100% of your claim. G4 Claims.
Thank you to our sponsors, G4 Claims, and a big well done to them at the Scottish Business Awards this week. They won the Best Professional Service Partner. Big round of applause for them, guys. Woo! On our own personal experience with G4 at the podcast studio, we couldn't ask for better facilities. And if you've got an idea to start a podcast, or you've already started with it and you're not quite sure which direction to take it in, get in touch. That's what we done. That's what happened with us. And here we are sitting here. It looks great if we do say so ourselves. Right, guys, before the break, I gave you a question. All right, now's your chance to answer it. Has anyone got the answer?
I've not got the answer, but I'll give it a shot.
Go for it.
I'm going to go with, because it's a Cowboys, I'm going to say he rode a horse into the stadium.
It's wrong. That is completely wrong. As much as I'd love to see Jerry Jones on a horse in the stadium, it's completely wrong. Roberto, Shug, giving it a guess?
I think it is for the absolute travesty that Zeke is still RB1 when Tony Pollard is there and the NFL find him.
I'm going to agree with you as well. So we would fine him too, but that's sadly not the answer. Shug?
I'm going to go a betting scandal. A betting scandal maybe in there?
Betting scandal? No, it's wrong. Yous are all wrong. Okay, he dressed up as a blind referee for Halloween at one of his granddaughter's Halloween parties.
What? Well, he got him.
She posted it on her Instagram that it was discovered, so that's what he's going to face a hefty fine for potentially. But no, we'll move on. Fantasy relevant injury news, guys, and it was a poor weekend once again for the Green Bay Packers. They're completely falling apart at the seams. They've looked awful this season. It looked like the year where Aaron Jones would be Aaron Jones. It looked like a year where Aaron Rodgers would be surrounded by a lot of potential in terms of young running backs and Christian Watson, Romeo Doubs, and Alan Lazard. But Aaron Jones injured, left in a walking boot, and also Romeo Doubs is out as well. He left wearing a walking boot also, so 2 potentially bad ankle injuries. Shug, what are we looking at fantasy-wise here? Would you be going and picking up AJ Dillon if you could, or trying to trade for him?
I'm quite happy because I've obviously got Lazard, so it does mean a lot with relying on him. He had these injury problems recently as well. You're right, it's been a very poor season for the Packers. But really in that area, I'd potential. It looks if AJ Dillon will obviously benefit from that. Lazard will benefit. So if you've not got one of those 2 or both of them, yeah, I would go out and get them. Yeah,
and in fantasy football, Roberto, you've not got Aaron Rodgers, or it's Martin in our league that's got him, right? So far this season, Rodgers has thrown 6 interceptions. Last season, he scored So far this season, Rodgers has thrown a total of 6 interceptions. Last year, the whole season, he threw 4. Is it time to bench him?
Yeah, I would have benched him weeks ago.
In fantasy football, we're not talking to Green Bay Packers.
I would have benched him weeks ago. I don't think he's done anything this year to be worth a place in the starting lineup. There's so many quarterbacks. We spoke about Heineke earlier on. There's so many quarterbacks in lesser teams that are outperforming him week in, week out. Rodgers, in my eyes, him and Brady should have retired last year.
Yeah, it's almost like a sad ending to a blockbuster movie, isn't it? Rodgers, what is it? Back-to-back MVPs, fantastic player. There's a debate out there that ability-wise, is he better than Brady? That's an argument for another day, but it's not going well for him. Drew, the Packers getting beat in this game to the Lions. This was a bit of a shock result. Did it shock you? The score ended 15-9 to the Lions.
Yeah, it was definitely a big surprise. You know, I don't think many people, especially after the way the Lions had been playing for the past few weeks, we obviously, every week we were tipping the Lions, and when they were scoring a lot of points, past couple of weeks have struggled. So I don't think anybody's seen that result coming against the Packers. And I think we're all just waiting on the Packers to have that one result that's going to just propel their season. You know, it's always going to be, it's going to be this week, it's going to be this week, but it never seems to happen. And I do think Rodgers should have probably hung up his helmet and just went
Hello.
and went and done Jeopardy.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah. And the thing, I think that the Packers are struggling so much, and we're waiting for this big performance. But every single week, Rodgers has got a different guy to aim for. I mean, you can't get about any momentum.
Yeah,
He's got every single week. He's got players injured. One comes back, and another one gets injured. It's just nothing's working for them. And I do feel bad for Rodgers, and I do feel bad for the Packers because they're a brilliant team. But I mean, week in, week out, it's a different offensive lineup. And what can you do with that?
Who was the French guy for the Packers that ended up getting destroyed by the Lions? What was his name?
Oh,
again?
this is gonna be. I'm not looking forward to
Claude.
this.
I was trying to think of a French player. I was like, I can't even think of one.
But Shug, other injury news that happened, all right, we're not going to dwell on that at all. Other injury news, and we spoke on Thursday night about the trade deadline.
Yep.
From the Colts, Naheem Hines went to the Bills, and we were saying, what a move for him, potential Super Bowl winners there. And Zach Moss went the other way.
Yep.
All right. Jonathan Taylor's been struggling this season. Bit of a downfall for anyone that picked him up in the first round. And we've seen his backup, Deion Jackson, go out injured in this game. It doesn't look good.
Yep.
Would you be looking to pick up Zach Moss there, knowing that he's going to be the running back?
Yeah, it has to be now. You would go for Zach Moss now. As I said, it was a move that we didn't really spend too much time dwelling on. Didn't sound a great one for him, but now due to those injuries, you would probably say he's a decent pickup.
Yeah, especially if you are a Jonathan Taylor owner and you're looking for a wee bit of security there, knowing that JT's not a guy that would be out injured at all. We spoke about him being the Iron Man, never missed a single game or training session throughout high school, college, and now professional football. For me, you go out and you handcuff him. The only other notable, we wouldn't say injury, is Brandon Cooks, all right? He was out on Thursday night for personal reasons, and it caused absolute controversy in our league. Shug was up against Johnny. Johnny is that guy in our league who sometimes doesn't set his team. Is the cardinal sin when it comes to fantasy football. Brandon Cooks, Drew, if you're that owner, can you see him playing again this season? I know that he pushed for a trade for a team that was want to have a Super Bowl run. Now, what the Texans wanted for him was a second, a fourth, and for whoever traded him to carry the 18 million salary. Is this one you should be worried about as a fantasy owner of Brandon Cooks?
I think it is, you know what I mean? With a lot of NFL players, it's their ego that kind of comes between them and teams a lot of the time, isn't it? And it is one of these situations. I feel like in the NFL, a lot of players just absolutely like down tools and like, nah, I'm not playing. Like, you can still pay me, but I'm not playing. So it could be one of these situations that to try and force the move to happen, obviously in the close season now. But he could be trying to look after himself, you know what I mean? Might not want to get injured, do this and possibly again stop him getting a move later on in the year. But I would keep a close eye on it. You know, it's one of these ones that it could be a week's time, they could be back and then he sets the house on fire and stuff like that.
Yeah. They've covered their backs well with it, and you're bang on the money there, Drew, when you said that he could be trying to protect himself and look after what he's got. Now, he wanted that trade, he wanted that Super Bowl. Good player, I don't think like he's ripped up trees, but his first tweet after that trade deadline was, "Don't take a man's kindness for granted. Covered for the lies for too long. Those days are done. Crossed the line with playing with my career." Now, for me, that sounds like a guy that wants out. He's phoned it in. Roberto, can you see him in a Texans jersey again this season?
I hope not. The simple reason for it is I've got Nico Collins, who when he comes back from injury, he'll be wide receiver 1. I appreciate it's Davis Mills, and it's obviously not the best quarterback in the league, but I do feel bad for Brandon Cooks, because if you look at the kind of, I can't remember who it was, but if you look at all the quarterbacks that he's had from the start of his career, it's just a gradual downgrade every single time. Now he's ended up with Davis Mills, who is okay, but if I was Brandon Cooks, I totally get why he wants to move out, but yeah, I'm team Nico Collins, so don't play again, Brandon, if you're listening.
This is
Stay in the house.
Just keep tweeting.
Stay in the kitchen.
This is a wee bit of luck that you needed. But no, from that Packers game, we're talking about shock defeats. And this week, the biggest shocker of the week, it had to be the Bills going down 2017 to the Jets. Shug, did you see this one coming?
Not at all. I think that was the easiest one we could answer last week. We all said Bills straight away. Wasn't even any point discussing it. The Bills looked so strong. We fancy them for a Super Bowl. Still, listen, it doesn't change my opinion of the Bills, to be honest with you. I think they've had quite a few problems on their defence in terms of injuries. So it doesn't change my opinion, but a massive shock. But you've got to give a bit of respect to the Jets now.
Massively.
That's a huge result for them.
Yeah, I'm absolutely loving Robert Saleh there and the job that he's doing. Even losing Breece Hall, they've done outstanding. Carter there with a touchdown yesterday. We've already touched on Garrett Wilson. On the other side of the field, Gabe Davis falls into that Devonta Smith bracket for me in fantasy football. I'm now toiling with the idea of trading him away. I just don't know where to go with him from here. This week he scored 5.3 points. Last week it was 5.5. He only get 5 targets this week and 7 targets last week, so that's gone down. He's your classic boomer bust player for me. Yep. He's either going to absolutely knock it out the park or he's going to kill it completely, and it's not good.
If you've got Davis and you've got Devonta Smith, for me, if you're wanting to trade him away, you're wanting to put them, two of those players together, Smith and Davis, for somebody that's pretty decent. And I think that's where you're going to get people being like, right, okay, that's two mediocre players, but could absolutely smash out the park. Yeah. And he's like, right, okay, he's a bit more consistent. So that would be my advice to you, Kieran. That's what I would do. Yeah,
I think in terms of my team, it's win, loss all season. And that's why players like that just aren't consistent in fantasy football. Next week, like I say, Minnesota Vikings, the number 27 team against a wide receiver in fantasy football. I don't know, I may hold on to him for now, but if I get a decent enough offer, he'll move on.
Don't send me an offer for him, because I wouldn't accept it at all.
I'll listen.
No.
My guy. But no, I'll tell you, we spoke about him at the top of the show. Joe Mixon, right? We won't go on about him, but the Bengals defeating the Panthers 42-21. I think they ended up resting Joe Burrow later in the game. They rested Mixon as well, who would have probably got the record of 59.1 fantasy points had he played the full part of all 4 quarters. But Shug, I'm going to talk about one guy in particular here, T. Higgins. All right, Jamar Chase, we're not quite sure of the full scale of the injury. Very possible he could go in IR. How high do you rate T. Higgins in fantasy football right now?
Very high. Last week we said that about him being out. We said go for Higgins. We said it would be a big, he could get the points in, so rate him very, very highly.
Yeah. And Roberto, is there anyone else in that Bengals team? Because this is the Bengals team that put that Super Bowl run together last year. And it's a very, very similar circumstance to last year where they started very poorly and then all of a sudden they exploded. Now, yesterday I thought it looked phenomenal. Is there anyone else in there that you like in fantasy football?
Hayden Hurst, the tight end.
Yep. Knew it was coming. I was going to say it.
This is a guy who nobody's ever even heard about. Like I didn't know him until fantasy this season, and he's one of those players that is just consistently racking up double-digit points, just going under the radar. Nobody talks about him, and he's just bringing in points. So, and the thing with the Bengals is they're in the exact same position as they were last year when they got to the Super Bowl as they were this year. So we might be thinking it's a terrible season for them, but it's exactly the same as last year when they reached the Super Bowl.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and we could sit here all night and talk about the Dolphins beating the Bears 35-32. Tua versus Fields, two of the best young quarterbacks in the league that have been waiting to explode. They both have. But I'm going to go on to another one, and you're talking about Hayden Hurst there at tight end. Drew, a guy who Shug has nicknamed the Ham Hawk. TJ Hawkinson moved from the Lions to the Vikings, on the trade deadline. This is probably, for me, the highest profile move of it. Where does he stand in fantasy football? Are we talking at the Vikings now in that tier of Kelsey and Mark Andrews, or are we talking just underneath that?
Well, you look at the Vikings wide receiver core, right? You've got Justin Jefferson, who is obviously the standout. He's going to get majority of the targets, most of the touchdowns, and most of your fantasy points. The next one below that, you're talking Adam Thielen. Obviously, getting a bit older now, bit more injury prone, and he's not hitting the heights as he once was. So I would probably say Hawkinson is either number 2 option or number 3 option for the Vikings. I know he's obviously tight end, but I mean, obviously in terms of catches and things like that. But is he up there with Andrews and Kelsey and Kittle as well? Can't forget Kittle. And no, doesn't count. I would probably say no. I'd probably put him in the same bracket as like Ertz.
I would say Ertz is miles better.
No, but in terms
not
of
miles better than Hawkinson.
I think Ertz will massively outperform Hawkinson in this Vikings lineup. I don't think Hawkinson will do as well as we think, or as well as he should in this lineup.
I don't think so. In terms of Ertz, he's got Kyler Murray at quarterback, who's not firing at all at the moment. For me,
raging.
Ahead of me, Dick, man.
Let it out. See, this is a counselling session. The Cardinals this week.
Get off Call of Duty and start playing Madden.
Yeah, exactly. So they're now, since the new Call of Duty came out, Modern Warfare 2, they're now 0-2. Now we all know Kyler Murray's contract situation where he's to lay off the video games and study a bit more tape. The proof is in the pudding here for me.
But I have to say, if he's ever looking for an extra player for Warzone, then give me a shout. You know what I mean? Yeah. Bobby are quite good. So.
Yeah.
I'll vouch for that. But Drew, Kyler Murray's your quarterback, right? They lost 31-21 to the Seahawks. Is this someone you'd be looking to move on at this stage?
I don't know. It's just so frustrating. Like, I spoke about it so many times. Last year when I was watching the NFL, I was loving him. I was so jealous of Bobby having him. He was so good. He could run, he could pass, everything. He'd done absolutely everything. I think he's gradually starting to get there, but his points are just not getting any higher. Yeah. And that's the difficult thing for me. He started running really, really well last night, and he actually got really unlucky. At one point, he made about 20-30 yard run, and just as he's about to go to the ground, the boy punched the ball and he fumbled the ball. And it's just like, it's just a nightmare. But at this present moment, I'm sitting on him. I'm staying with him. I've got Deshaun Watson ready there for when he comes off his suspension to slot in his bye week. But then that's when it gives me a bit of a dilemma. If Deshaun Watson starts playing well, I've already got Chubb and I've got Cooper. This could be the same thing as I had last year, and it was Cooper Kupp and Stafford. So I'll need to see how it goes. Yeah. But just now, I'm staying with Kyler.
Yeah, and moving on for Drew admitting that he's got no morals with Deshaun Watson. Shug, I'm going to slide back on this one, and we're going to look at the Jacksonville Jaguars, all right?
Yep.
And I'm going to hit you with a big question here. Now, they beat the Las Vegas Raiders 27-20.
Yep.
Right now, is Travis Etienne the best running back in fantasy football?
I'd put him behind CMC.
Yeah.
Honestly, I'm sticking with CMC, but Travis Etienne, he's one of the ones we spoke about a lot in pre-season, and then we were wondering, as the case with a lot of running backs, we kind of kept saying, when are they going to start taking off? When's their season going to start? Has he certainly started now? He's really producing now. So he's hot property right now. I think it's standing out because of how kind of slow he started the season. But I'd put him just behind CMC. He's right up there.
Yeah, in fantasy terms, Travis Etienne and Derrick Henry have the easiest schedules in the run-in. So if you've got them in your team and you're in contention for the sort of playoff places, keep them in there. Do not be trading them away. I know that you'd be off your head to trade away Derrick Henry, but people do. People do these things. But another few games that we look at, the Rams and Bucks. Tom Brady there. They beat the Rams 16-13. Tom Brady's been a one that's been a bit of discussion in fantasy football. Roberto, is he a starter at the moment in fantasy football?
No. Again, similar to Rodgers, I don't think that they've done enough to earn a place in their starting lineup, but they don't produce the numbers. I mean, the Buccaneers, when was the last time that they scored over 20 points? I honestly can't remember a game that in the last 4 weeks that they've scored over 20 points. They've just been very, very, very underwhelming. I personally wouldn't start Brady. Good on them for getting a victory, but I mean, you're playing a Rams team who have got a Super Bowl hangover and they just can't seem to get anything going. But yeah, I wouldn't start Stafford either for the Rams. Either the quarterbacks, avoid.
And last time Bucks scored over 20 points last week.
Oh, was that? Fair enough.
They get beat 27-22.
2 points over.
And Drew, I can see you're in your Bet365 account here, and I know you've got a bee in your bonnet, right? And we're on the Bucks. Talk to me, Chris Godwin.
Fraud.
Absolute
fraud.
Why?
To be fair, I don't think he's much of the fraud. I think it was more Tom Brady's the fraud.
Yeah.
You know?
I sound like his wife.
Can he call Tom Brady a fraud?
Well,
you sound like his kids.
if Giselle wants to come and we'll speak about our problems about Tom Brady, I'm quite happy to do it, you know?
Right, this has to go to an 18 now.
I'm talking about over a coffee.
Antonio Brown's already there consoling us.
I know, probably.
But Drew, explain to the listeners what happened. Chris Godwin.
So, put on a anytime touchdown scorer, Coopen. 10 or on it. How many did I have? 5? I had 5. 3 in the early window, 2 in the late window. Within about 5 minutes of the early window games, I had Cordarrelle Patterson up. I had
Hopkins.
No, that was the late window.
Oh, was that?
Cordarrelle Patterson, Tyreek Hill, and
I don't know why you're struggling. Your Bet365 account's right there.
Skybet, Kieran. Did plug.
I know, but you do these every week.
Was it Etienne?
No, it wasn't.
You've always come close.
Yep.
And this one,
Last week when I was in London, I was even closer, which was annoying.
yeah.
And it was your man, Brian Robinson.
Oh, many man.
Yeah.
So if there's any betting partners watching, we could be doing this every week. So
And Justin Jefferson.
Justin
So
Jefferson.
Justin Jefferson. That was a 3 in the early window. And then I had DeAndre Hopkins, who within 2 minutes in the Cardinals game had a touchdown. And then I had Chris Godwin waiting on him for £577, and the man could not catch a cold.
And see the thing about that.
Please gamble
Jefferson
responsibly.
bet. See the thing about the Jefferson bet. I think that was his first touchdown since week 1.
Aye.
Is that right?
I don't think he's had a touchdown since week 1, and that was week 9.
But this is the other thing that annoys me. See, I put another one on, right? And I put 2 people on it that scored 2 touchdowns, and they were better prices than Chris Godwin. Christian Kirk and Alan Lazard.
And did you win?
No.
There
was 3 others that did score.
Okay, guys, we'll not dwell too long. One more to cover. The Chiefs beat the Titans 2017 in overtime, right? And there's one guy I want to touch on here. I picked him up thinking it was a late round draft pick for me. I'm going to come to you with this one, Shug. You know, late in the draft when you're picking up guys and you're just kind of throwing to see what sticks. For me, I picked up Juju Smith-Schuster. Now, this week I was worried with Kadarius Toney going there that it was another target for Patrick Mahomes, right? The past 3 weeks, he's looked like a top 10, top 5 wide receiver for me. 18.8 points last night, 25.4 points last week, and there was a bye week in there as well. So there was a bye week last week. Week prior, 25.4 points, and week 6, 22.3 points.
Yep.
Should I be holding on to him, or is this a case of there might be a chance at Kadarius Toney Booms there?
I would hold on to him, to be honest. I think, look across the Chiefs, I think they're so unpredictable in terms of their offense. Don't rely on, like when they had Hill, you knew they were just going to him a lot of the time, or they were just going to Kelsey, they were just going to get, those guys were getting you the points and nobody else really. Now they seem to spread it out, you're getting guys consistently getting you those points. Now Hardman's another example. I had him on my bench yesterday, I'd picked him up and he got me about 20 odd points one week, and I just thought that's a one-off. Kept him in my roster and then put him on the bench. Stupidly didn't put him in my team, and then it was another, I think, 24 he came up with yesterday. So these guys right across the offense for Kansas are getting the points, so I'd be holding on to him, to be honest.
Yeah, I'm loving that Kansas offense, but we'll not dwell on it too long. There's more news on another wide receiver who seems to creep up every time this year. Odell Beckham Jr. It looks like he's going to come back into contention next week. There's a raft of teams after him, right? And we'll talk fantasy football, okay? Despite where he goes at the moment, Roberto, is this is someone you're looking at? Because he's not on IR, he's sitting as questionable at the moment, so it's not like you can pick him up and stash him. Would you be going to get him?
Yeah, I think it's a risk worth taking, because at the end of the day, on your bench, you've probably got kind of players that you would never really play, would you? You've got players that are literally just there to fill in buys. I think Cowboys are favourite to sign OBJ. I seen in the news earlier on, but he is a player that will produce fantasy points. He will score touchdowns. He was pivotal in the Rams winning the Super Bowl last season, and the fact that they didn't get him a new contract and keep him on was absolutely bonkers. But I'll definitely be looking to get him. But I think Pollock has him in our league.
I don't think anyone has. I think
nobody
somebody
have
dropped
him?
him.
He's on waivers.
Is he?
somebody dropped
Okay.
him.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going for him.
Yeah, for me, I'm not so sure, right? But Drew, would you say it's a case of you would go and get him where he lands, as in, I'm meaning more like a team. We've spoke a lot about Gabe Davis and Devonta Smith this week being that WR2. Is it a case of where he lands? Would you be picking him up if he's going into a team that are absolutely desperate for a wide receiver?
No, I don't think so. Because I think you look at it last season, he was at the Rams, and it would be interesting to see what his points he scored last season, and then you compare there. He's up against Cooper Kupp. You know what I mean? I'm pretty sure he had a good few weeks of high point scoring, and he's up against which was the wide receiver one last season. Let's have a wee look.
Did OBJ score the winning touchdown? No,
He scored the first
one
first
in the Super
touchdown.
Bowl, yeah.
But you were saying obviously why the Rams did sign him again. I think probably one of the main reasons why he didn't sign him again is because he got injured during
So
the
he
Super
did.
Bowl.
So he did.
So I think if he was
Yeah,
probably
yeah, yeah.
fit through the Super Bowl,
Yeah.
and then Van Jefferson obviously got injured as
Yeah.
well, I think they probably would have kept him around. So I think that's the thing as well. I think you can't really look too much into the Rams not signing him.
Yeah, true.
I think it's possibly the injury that's obviously caused that to happen rather than anything else, because I think they would be crying out for somebody just now. But speaking of the Rams, that could be another one to pick up. I seen Van Jefferson was back at the weekend as well.
That's right. That's right. Very good
Have you
fantasy.
got him?
I have not. No. The talk around town is that it does. Is not sort of favourable over a run at the Super Bowl again. It's more that he wants a 2-year contract, and given how many times he's blown his knees out, you can see he's wanting a wee bit of protection. He's a dad now. And I'm going to go around the table and I'm going to start with you, Shug. Where is he landing?
I'm going to throw it there and go, he's going to the Bills.
Right, okay. Any particular reason?
I just think him playing with Josh Allen, I think after their loss at the weekend, they might think, let's add another weapon in there. I think it could be a good fit. They look to be going all out to try and get the Super Bowl this year, so if I'm taking a guess, maybe going there.
Yeah, if he goes there, that's a no for me in fantasy football. Crowded offence, it's a no. Roberto?
So I'm going to stick with the Cowboys. I think the Cowboys are in one of the positions just now where they're sitting at, I think, 5-3 or 6-3 that they are, so they're in a good position. If they can add just something else to their offense just to make them a wee bit more competitive, OBJ is their man for that. They'll have Zeke, Pollard running back, they'll have CeeDee Lamb, OBJ, Schultz, Noah Brown as their wide receivers and tight ends. That's a good offense if he goes there, a really good with Dak at the helm as well.
Yeah.
Gallup as well.
And Michael Gallup as well, aye.
So for me, the flip side of what Shug said with the Bills, I'd be picking them up if we went to the Cowboys.
Yeah.
Reason I say that, CD Lamb seems to be the only target there at wide receiver. Safety blanket, Dawson Schultz, who I actually brought in this week in a trade. By the way, on that trade, Brian Robinson for Dawson Schultz, what we saying? Good trade, bad trade?
Gibson seems to be kind of retaking the helm at the Commander, so you've probably sold high on Robinson. Schultz has started the season pretty poorly, but he seems to be picking up a wee bit of momentum. I would say you're a clear winner there.
Yeah. So back to where we were. So thank you. OBJ, if he did go to the Cowboys, right, for me, that's a very good fantasy option. Drew, give me a name. Where's he going?
I would love for him to go back to the Giants. I think that would be really good to see. They're struggling, obviously, wide receiver wise, but I think the Packers could be a good shout for him.
Off shout.
They're struggling big time.
That is a shout.
Big time, you know, and that could be one of the things that could possibly turn their season around.
Yeah.
And you're looking there, you're saying he wants a 2-year contract. Could probably get it there, because who have they got wide receiver wise? Lazard, Doubs, and
Watson.
Yeah, for me, that is a very good shout in terms of the news came out the other day that it wasn't for the one trying that they didn't bring in a wide receiver on the deadline. I know they were in for Chase Claypool, Darren Waller, and also
McCaffrey.
DJ Moore.
Try to get McCaffrey as well.
Did they as well? My God,
Quite heavily.
yeah. So for me, Packers, I don't know if I'm taking anybody in the Packers offense just now. Rodgers has been that bad.
No.
I'll just throw a name in there and I'll say 49ers.
oh, not too much. Far too much.
No,
Not
not
too
fancying
much.
that.
No.
see it.
See, bringing in CMC there, you know what I mean? They're going to use him so much. They'll use him passing, catching, pass catching, running back. I don't think
They were asked the question and they said we'll take a look at everyone. So they didn't rule it out. Imagine that offense.
I know.
It'd be unbelievable. But
The Garoppolo.
yeah, so from one superstar wide receiver to the other, Cooper Kupp became the second ever player for 500 catches. Who was the first? I'll give you 2 points in the end game here.
How many guesses do we get?
I'll give you 2 each.
500 catches.
Give me them quick fire.
Catches.
Cooper Kupp, second ever player to complete 500 catches. Who was the first?
Kelsey.
Wrong.
Manuel Sanders.
Wrong.
Larry Fitzgerald.
That's a good guess, but no, wrong. Give you a clue. He's still playing right
I
now.
was thinking that.
Still
Still
playing.
playing right now.
Right, so round the table, one more guess each.
Oh, I think I've got a good shout.
Go for it.
I've now Randall Cobb.
Wrong, you're out. Go.
Hopkins.
Wrong. Shug, it's on you. He's still playing.
Still playing. Gives another clue.
You can't guard him.
He's a Doug.
Can't guard them.
He's got the dog in him, we know that for sure. He's out injured at the moment.
Beckham.
He's a teammate of Jim Tan Landry.
Michael Thomas.
Well done, boys. We got there in the end, but no. Once again, thanks to everyone. We're getting to the end of the show. We are going to finish off with a wee game, okay? The guys, flip your sheets over that you were handed out before. All right, Drew, not that one. Wrong sheet. I need to direct you. Okay, and what we're going to do, guys, there's a list of the top fantasy scorers from week 9. Can you put them in order from highest to lowest for the entire season? Okay, so for anyone listening at home, right, so in order of the entire season, so anyone listening at home, it's Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, Justin Fields, Devonta Adams, and Patrick Mahomes. I'll read it to you one more time, guys. We've got Mixon, Ken Walker, Fields, Adams, and Mahomes. Can you put them in order?
So from week 1 to 9.
Yeah.
Okay.
So of the 5 players, who has the highest fantasy total of the season so far? Right. Ready?
Yeah.
Right, Shug, on you go. Give me your order. Go from best to worst.
I went Paddy Mahomes,
Okay.
Kenneth Walker third,
Yep.
Joe Mixon, Justin Fields, and Devonta Adams fifth.
You're wrong. Roberto?
I've went Mahomes,
Yes.
Justin Fields, Kenneth Walker, Mixon, Adams.
Wrong. Drew, hit me up.
I've went Mahomes,
Yep.
Adams, Mixon, Walker, Fields.
Drew, you're the closest. This would go Patrick Mahomes with 201.8 points. Joe Mixon second with 171.7. Justin Fields in third with 165.08. Devonta Adams with 119.1. And King Kenny Walker, 115.8 in fifth
I got one.
All right. You've got one. Well done, guys. Right, before we move on to the next bit, guys, I'm feeling a wee bit generous, so give yourselves a point each for the ones that you got in the right position.
One.
Got one.
We all get one. Oh, this is tight. This is tight.
Right, here we go, guys, right? Here are the current top 5 players according to fantasy points for 2022. Can you put them in order of where they ended last season, 2021?
That's easy.
Okay, here's the 5 players: Josh Allen, Tyreek Hill, Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Austin Eckler. I'll read that again: Allen, Hill, Mahomes, Burrow, and Eckler.
Oh, but this is actually quite hard. Actually.
For the listeners at home, Hill, Mahomes, Burrow, Allen, and Eckler. You have 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay, so I'm going to read them out here, boys, and mark away. Number 1, Josh Allen.
Oh, what?
Anyone get it?
Yep.
Number
got it.
2, Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, 2 for 2.
Okay.
No.
Number 3, Austin Eckler with 343.8 points. Number 4, Joe Burrow, 314. Can anyone tell me who's
The
last?
cheetah.
Correct. 296.5 points.
I got a fried
3
egg.
points for the biggin.
3 points for Shug, Roberto with 1, and Drew a wee fried egg.
0.
Okay, well done. We'll move on to question 3.
Flying.
In honour of Cooper Kupp and his 500th catch, we want you to put these in order of most receiving yards this season. Okay, Jamar Chase, Tyreek Hill, Justin Jefferson, Cooper Kupp, and Christian Kirk. Okay, Chase, Hill, Jefferson, Kupp, and Kirk.
Oh, I've seen this. Oh, that's him. I've seen this on Instagram.
Cheat.
Pressure's on.
See the pressure's on.
I know.
Drew.
There's no way I'm going to get it
I'm
all.
giving you 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Make him that. Right, yeah.
Okay, so the order
The
is
same as you.
Tyreek Hill
Yep.
with 1,100, Justin Jefferson with 867 yards, Cooper Kupp with 813, Jamar Chase with 603, and number 5, Christian Kirk with 574. Shug, the noise is coming from your camp. What have you scored there?
3. I get the first
Oh,
3
well
right,
done.
and then 2 fell away. But me and Roberto scored the same.
That's
I think
a good
Roberto's
effort.
been cheating.
So
Can I
the
see you workings, guys?
yes,
That's what they do at the big count now.
So who was it? It was Hill,
Jefferson, Kupp,
Cup.
and then Cup.
Chase,
Kirk.
Captain Kirk.
Aye.
Okay, so what's the scores and the doors in total?
So
Shug,
I'm on 7.
Roberto,
I'm on 5.
I've got 3.
and Drew. Oh, Drew, you need to score all 5
play
here.
for
Okay. Last question. Right, I've got faith in you, man. This last one is a list of NFL player surnames from NFL history. I want you to put these surnames in order of most popular. Okay, so how many NFL players have had this surname? Please note that we don't have the publishing date for this fact, so it might be a couple of years out of date. Okay, so did you get what I'm meaning there, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, Johnson, Smith, Williams, Jones, Brown.
There's no thinking between that one.
Total
It's just a
guess,
guess,
man.
isn't it?
Drew, I expect you to know this. You've seen this on Instagram. Okay.
We went totally different.
I
We
feel
went totally
confident, yeah.
different.
Right, okay, so the order, are you all done?
Yep.
There has been 58 NFL surnames of the name Williams.
Is that top?
Top.
Ah, fuck it.
Pish.
That's Drew beat. Okay, so 53 people have went by the name in the NFL of Johnson.
Nah, man.
That's good
Nah,
for
wrong
me.
Again.
Yep, we have had 39 players go by the name of Smith.
Oh, a wee point.
A wee point there. All right. Brown comes in at number 4 with 37 names.
I'm so
Last
class at
but
this.
not least, and this is quite a strange one. This would have threw me off, the amount of players that are called Jones just now in the NFL. 27 players. Scores in the doors, totals to finish. Shug,
I went with 8 points.
Roberto,
6.
Drew.
3.
Get in there. Come on.
Shug is the winner for
What
this
did I
week.
win?
What do you win? Sweet nothing.
That's a shambles, man.
But no, guys, it's been an absolute pleasure. My usual co-host, Shug, you've been on fire this week.
Listen, I've enjoyed it. Enjoyed it as always.
It's good, big win round the table. I've won, you've won, Roberto's won. Drew, it's hanging in the balance. How are you feeling?
quietly confident. I was just looking there actually. My projection, I'm 22 points. I need extra in the projected. I've got Kamara tonight. Big game for Kamara. I've also got Taysom Hill, who's only projected at 5 points. So anything more than that is a win.
Right, guys, a box of tricks. And Roberto,
Yep.
my pleasure as ever. Enjoyed yourself?
Yes, thank you very much for having me. It was a good laugh. Good laugh for the 3 years.
As always, we need to do this more often. But no, thank you very much to everyone that's listened. Like we said halfway through the show, please make sure you're subscribing, like it and share it. Tell all your friends you're in your fantasy leagues. That's the reason you're listening to this or watching. Or in the case of Roberto's auntie and her mum, hello. But thank you very much, guys. Good night.